Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. She was like, miss me with the hospice clown.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
You have to have a PhD in something you didn't know anything about a week ago.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
I hope you're taking care of yourself. I'm like, yeah, when would I be doing that?
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
You're not necessarily getting, oh, thank you, you're the most wonderful person in the world for bringing me dinner. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And did you know that November is National Caregiving Month?
Oh, a month just for us.
A month just for us.
That's so nice.
We're going to be talking about caregiving. But first, we're going to give care to our mailbag.
Okay. All right. I'll allow that segue.
Yeah, that was not my best work. Not my best work, guys. I'm sorry.
Mailbag.
So I was talking on a recent episode about the battle for bar chargers in my house and how I can never find a bar charger.
And I said, what's a bar charger? And it's, like a battery pack for your phone.
It's a battery pack for your phone.
Okay.
Exactly. I was lamenting my constant lack of bar chargers and then the use of the phrase in my house, is there a bar charger anywhere? To which I scream like a maniac. I don't know. Did you plug in a bar charger somewhere? Amy in our Facebook group says, Margaret, for Christmas, everyone in my house is getting a bar charger of a different color to fix this battle. You are in charge of your color. Already have them hiding in the closet.
I love this. I have given my kids these for Christmas. Of course, the problem is your kid won't care that your color is blue and now they have your blue bar charger. It might slow them down.
I don't want to yuck Amy's yum, but I mean, we've definitely done the Christmas of the here's your bar charger.
With your name on it?
We went out of the way with the label maker to label it. They're all different colors. Has it solved our problem? It has not. But God bless Amy for still trying.
It might help a little.
Yeah, I doubt it, but it might.
That's what we're here for.
I mean, God bless Amy. Go with God. Vaya con Dios.
This podcast is here for stuff that might help a little. I mean, that's really like the most we can offer.
That's the most we can offer. Thanks for listening. Amy, let's talk about caregiving. A caregiver is anyone who helps another person in need. That person in need might be an ill spouse or partner, a child with a disability, or an aging friend or relative.
Mm-hmm.
It also can be caring for a child without a disability. You are a caregiver if you are caring for a child, I would say, under the age of 18.
It's all day, every day. It's a good reason to get up in the morning, but it's definitely a reason for getting up in the morning. You have kids to take care of.
So I think for our conversation today, we are going to take the fact that we are speaking to, I don't know, is the term regular caregivers the wrong word? Like we are already talking to caregivers of children.
Like full-time caregivers. And it doesn't matter if you have another full-time job or another part-time job, you're a full-time caregiver.
You're a full-time caregiver, but in addition to that, many of us are doing caregiver jobs for other people in our lives, along with our full-time jobs of taking care of children.
Right.
And so we've talked about this in a survey of 3,000 U.S. adults with children under 14. So there we're checking the box of like already doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Care.com found that just taking care of kids under 14, 90% of parents are losing sleep.
Check.
Would like to talk to that other 10% and figure out what the heck they're doing. 80% overall and 90% of moms are spending some time crying. 75% feel a sense of dread, and 71% are experiencing health issues.
90% of moms are spending some time crying due to their caregiving, or it didn't just say, like, do you cry ever? And 90% said yes. I mean, that's a depressing statistic, but not a surprising one, I guess.
I think if we can leave this conversation with anything, even though we're just beginning the conversation, I think the absolute acknowledgement that caregiving is extremely hard. It's not pat on your head like you're doing the hardest job in the world, mom, but that caregiving, you have a tremendous amount of stress and you have a small amount of control. And when you look at studies about stressful work, that is always defined as the most stressful job. They'll say, like, being a brain surgeon, for example, which is like, you don't have to be a brain surgeon, that it is a less stressful job than being a waitress, let's say. The stakes are not as high. Like, okay, you didn't get your burger in time. Okay, you died from your brain surgery. But the brain surgeon has total control over their environment and is responsible, not solely because there's nurses and stuff around, but a job where your efforts are in your own hands. The outcome is pretty much in your own hand.
Yeah,
but the brain surgeon is too high level.
There's a whole other part of that too, which is that the brain surgeon is going to do that brain surgery, and then if it goes well, goodbye. Like, you're done. You don't have you don't have to operate on that person again tomorrow. You might have to do another different operation next week. But caregiving is figuring out what's for dinner every night. And as you said, are they equally difficult tasks? No, but it is the alwaysness and the, as soon as the laundry's folded, you have to fold more laundry of it. That's very different from being a brain surgeon.
Yes, and the outcome is very much in your control in a way that it is not with caregiving. Whether or not the person you are caring for gets better is not in your control. Whether or not your kid goes out and does something stupid, your overall control over the situation as a caregiver is fairly limited.
Sometimes you have a lot of control, like bedtime in your house. I remember you telling me when your kids were little that you were pretty like, okay, bedtime, everybody's in their beds by 7:30. I am done till tomorrow. And having a sense of control over that, you do have control. There are times when you can feel out of control. All of us have situationally felt out of control. I don't think it's like every moment of caregiving is like a house on fire, but sometimes it feels that way. And even at good times, it's like, okay, and now I'm just gonna have to drag them to bed again tomorrow. Now we do it all over again.
Exactly. And then on top of our day-to-day caregiving, we are part of the sandwich generation, which is you're caring for children under 18 and a parent, an elderly parent or relative. So the number of people in the adult population providing care and working outside of the household has increased from 1 in 7 in 2020 to 1 in 5 today. The average time devoted to giving personal care to another person has tripled since 2020.
I'm assuming that going from 1 to 7 to 1 in 5 since 2020 has to do with the aging population.
That's right. People are living longer, right? I mean, you're seeing this problem in U.S. prisons. You're seeing this problem in U.S. communities that people are living much longer, but people need much more care over the age of, let's say, 65. It doesn't mean everybody. I know lots of people who are 90 who don't need full-time care, but our parents are living longer and we're having kids later. And so the combination of those things mean that we are finding ourselves in these kind of super caretaker roles. Who are we caring for? So this is above and beyond caring for children in the house. 41% of people are caring for a parent.
41% of people in this category.
Correct. 29% are caring for a special needs child. 20% are caring for someone else, and 18% are caring for a spouse or partner.
This is an interesting, the 29% special needs child sounds really high to me, but maybe it's because it's just who are self-defining themselves as caregivers on top of their job. Like, would I say I was a caregiver when I wasn't in a situation of taking care of a parent? I guess I probably wouldn't, even though I'm taking care of my kids. So this is people who are already, no, I am like,
I'm doing it.
Hanging out the shingle. I am a caregiver. Okay.
And then nearly a quarter of caregivers of elderly or sick adults also have young children under the age of 18. So that's the sandwich where you are taking care of both the youngs and the olds in your life.
We have done that. Each of us have had that moment in our lives.
Yeah, and I think that it's something, if you haven't dealt with it, first of all, it can come up very fast. I think that's something that both you and I experience, where your days are sort of set. I know when my mom got ill, I had 3 pretty young kids under the age of 10. I think all 3 of my kids were. My mom had a underlying health issue that, was being managed fairly well. And then like on a Tuesday, she got pneumonia and then was in the hospital for 6 days and basically lost all of her strength. She was basically very functional on a Monday. Tuesday got pneumonia and was basically never well again until she died, which was maybe 2 or 3 months later. And so I went from a situation of not doing any caretaking to the house is on fire 24 hours a day. And can my husband come back from his trip because I'm going to need to spend the night over here? And then try and put together some forms of care, which is you kind of think like, well, I'll call someone and they'll send someone. It's very complicated. People don't show up sometimes. It's no guarantee. And suddenly you as a family person are now in this extreme medical support role for which you have no training and no ability. I remember at some point, the hospice nurse who had dropped off syringes full of X, Y, and Z, I was on the phone and they said, well, do you have any medical background at all? And I said, ma'am, I'm a comic. Like I couldn't be farther from a person. And I think the upside downness that it throws your life into when you find yourself in a caregiver role is just more profound than you can state.
Well said. And it is, as you said, the hardest part, I think. I mean, the logistics are very hard. My dad was in a hospital out of town that was close to neither where my parents live nor where I live for reasons, for healthcare reasons. And I dropped everything and found a hotel room for my mom and I to be in for a week. Now, my kids were old enough that they could make themselves dinner for a little while. But the part that was so hard for me on top of the logistics was this whole, like, I'm in charge of what? Like you're all of a sudden you have to have a PhD in something you didn't know anything about a week ago and manage your feelings about that in front of the person you're caring for.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to talk in the next section about what that feeling means, both for like day-to-day caregiver burnout for moms, but also the emotions and stuff that come out that are supposed to be all positive. And this is a tip of the spear thing that we talk about, which is that there is very little provided care by our systems in the United States of America. And so the care comes down primarily to women who have no medical training. And the idea is that it is your honor and gift to caretake for your parents who have taken care of you. And we have babies, so we'll have someone to take care of us when we're older. And you can feel very much that sense of obligation and what's like positive obligation. Like you want to take care of people, and you're talking about also hotel rooms, home health care aides. These things are extremely expensive and they do tend to come a little bit out of nowhere. So you can really find yourself in a situation where suddenly you don't have the time, you don't have the money, but you're in a situation where you cannot drop the ball because either your child needs you or you have an adult or a spouse who needs you. And there is no lane in which you're ever going to say, I'm out. I'm going to walk away from this situation. But there is not a ton of resources saying, here's how to help you through this situation.
There are not.
Not a fan, guys. We'll be back and we'll talk more about what it means to be a caregiver.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW. Let us surprise you.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
So I thought this statistic was interesting, just talking about, I'm not even going to go through all the statistics about how caregivers feel. They don't feel amazing, guys.
Right.
They're burnt out. They're struggling. This is from caregiver.com, Women and Caregiving Facts and Figures. This is talking about people who are caregiving for someone outside of their home other than their own children.
Okay.
An estimated 66% of caregivers are female. I don't think this is a shock to anyone. The average caregiver is a 49-year-old woman who works outside the home and provides 20 hours per week of unpaid care to her mother. So does that make sense? Of all the people doing this caregiving, the average is 49, some younger, some older, who works outside the home, and on top of everything else she's doing is caregiving for a parent 20 hours a week. The parent is her mother because women live longer.
Let's circle that too, that I think the idea that we will do it, the daughters, the sisters, the aunts, that we will take on the work because we're women, we're better at it, we really want to do it anyway, we're so good at caregiving, that sort of overall wash of you want to more, you have to more, has not changed at all with people working outside the home full time. Like it used to be like your husband works. He's too busy to take care of his mom.
Right. So you've got nothing going on. You take care of grandma.
Which was unfair then and wrong then. And now it's like, okay, and now you have to try to take leave from your job to do this. It gets more complicated.
Yeah. And I come from a family with very decent resources, and the expense of medical care is insane. I just can't overstate how expensive it gets, how quickly to provide 24-hour care. You're paying probably at minimum $40 an hour. It adds up. You're doing $1,000 by the time you put your feet on the ground in the morning every day. And it's a lot of money. And you're dealing generally with someone you love, and you want that person to be getting the best care possible. But the resources are very, very taxing. Here's another interesting statistic. Most older people with long-term care needs, that's 65% of people, rely exclusively on family and friends to provide assistance. And this is another place where you see, I know people who have fallen on really hard financial times, right? Let's say a spouse dies, they didn't have life insurance. Holy cow, they're living in the suburbs in this house and kind of living paycheck to paycheck. Spouse dies, they're now suddenly destitute. People do what? They do a GoFundMe. They try to come together. They fundraise for somebody. But taking on a 3 or 4 or 5 person family's total expense is too overwhelming for almost anybody, unless you're Jeff Bezos, right? Like, you think to yourself, like, well, we'll just hire the people when we need them, but it's much more expensive than you see coming.
Mm-hmm. And so most people just get away without it. So the daughter-in-law or the sister or the aunt, like I was saying before, become not just the patch, but the care. You're not bridging the care. You are the care.
You're not bridging the care.
Mm-hmm.
And this work, probably goes without saying, is very difficult. It's extremely emotional. It's extremely personal work sometimes, like bathing and tending to the needs of an older person. If that person is your parent, the roles are reversed. If that person is a parent you've had conflict with during your life. I mean, this is hard work. And then it can also be very physically hard work. If you're picking somebody up, if you're moving people from a bed to a wheelchair. I mean, this is work that is primarily invisible to us as a society. Oh, yeah, I'm taking care of my mom. She's getting older. Oh, okay. You're not thinking about the difficulty of that work is so profound.
I grew up with my grandmother living with us. She had like an apartment in our house. We had a big house. She lived upstairs in a separate unit, basically. And then she started getting very confused. She had Alzheimer's and she moved downstairs for a while. So my parents re-racked our whole house. I was already out of the house by then, but my grandmother lived with my parents. And just to put an extra thing on this, my grandmother didn't recognize my mother anymore. And was very, very hard on her.
Right.
that was constantly finding fault with her caregiving because she was, the lazy person who worked here, not her daughter-in-law. And that's a sort of often unspoken and I think very hard additional part of this. You're not necessarily getting, oh, thank you. You're the most wonderful person in the world for bringing me dinner in return. You're not getting anything like that.
Yeah. And part of dementia can involve mood changes, personality changes. That's right. You think about it in this kind of pink cloud of thinking of like, oh, Dad, I'll always take care of you because you were so great to me. You're not picturing a multi-year illness where that person is, I'm not talking about my own dad, but you might end up in a multi-year, very difficult caretaking relationship with someone who does not resemble your dad to you anymore. And I mean, this is hard work.
You didn't watch Somebody Somewhere on
No.
HBO Max, did you? Watch that show, everybody. It's such a good show. Jeff Hiller just won the Emmy for it, very deservedly. But one of the plot points is Bridget Everett and her sister, I forget that actress's name. They're sisters who are taking care of their aging parents. And as often happens, one is becoming less physically able and one is becoming less mentally able. I feel like it's always one or the other, Right. I was just talking to my mom about this, that people either are of completely sound mind and can't get around, or they could chop wood if they needed to and they don't know who you are. And this is Somebody Somewhere really shows that in the first 2 seasons, how you have one parent going one way and one parent going the other way.
Yeah. And I've definitely been with older people who did not have any capacity left to recognize people or seemingly have any joyful moments in their life. And then you sit down to dinner and they're eating like a steak, mashed potatoes, 2 sweet teas and pumpkin pie. And you're like, oh, we're going to be here for a while yet, And it's a challenge. So statistically, we're saying about 1 in 3 adults in the United States is an informal or family caregiver for someone outside. So that not for their children, for somebody else.
Okay.
Population is aging. These numbers keep going up and up and up. People are living longer. And to put a fine point on it, none of our systems are keeping up. We're not doing more family leave. We're not doing lower healthcare prices. We're not doing anything to keep up with these statistics other than being like, ladies, go help.
And the people who do this work in nursing homes and rehabs and hospices, many of whom I've gotten to see in action, do amazing work. They're overworked, they're underpaid, they're underappreciated. It is not something that our society properly pays, let alone staffs. There's not enough of them. And
staff shortages everywhere,
yeah,
right?
And you're doing it for the calling, not for the 401k.
I'm going to talk about some signs of caregiver stress quickly because I think we get it, right? Feeling burdened or worried all the time, tired often, sleeping too much or not enough, gaining or losing weight, becoming easily irked or angry, losing interest in activities, feeling sad, having frequent headaches or other pains or health problems, misusing alcohol or drugs, including prescription medicines, and missing your own medical appointments. And so I think the facile thing to say here is the thing that everybody says, put your oxygen mask on first. You can't care for other people if you don't care for yourself. And having been in this emergency caretaking situation, easier said than done, guys.
Yes.
Lots of people saying to me, like, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I'm like, yeah, when would I be doing that? Like, I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that. I think sometimes people who say, I hope you're taking care of yourself, they're saying that to get themselves off the hook, right? Like, I hope you're taking care of yourself. No, I'm not. Would you like to come over tomorrow? They don't really want to take part. They just want to absolve themselves of concern about your well-being. We just did an episode about stress versus burnout and how you can tell the difference. And basically, it is that stress turns into burnout. We all live stressful lives. Something like this, you can turn into burnout. And burnout is not make sure you make time for yoga class every Tuesday night. You can't get out of it without really important support and attention from the people around you and maybe a mental health professional. You need help. And I think you can get there. And somebody telling you need to take care of yourself is like they're throwing dirt on your coffin to be like, yeah, do better. Take care of yourself.
I will say on the flip side, some of this work can be very private for people, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it can be hard to access help. Like, I know that when my mother was sick, she only wanted one of her daughters there because that's who she trusted to take care of her. And she was kind of right, you know, and like she was ill and she had been a very put together and beautiful woman. And she didn't want other people coming in. And she was aware of the burden. Like, it's a tough balance. It's not like, oh, today Uncle Carl's coming over. It's like, whoa. The last person on earth I want to see is Uncle Carl, you know, like, and it's work that is hard to share for a reason. And I think we're going to talk about it in section 3 a little bit, that setting this up and having these conversations before you're in an emergency, I think is really, really important. But before then, Amy, let's talk about compassion fatigue.
Okay.
Compassion fatigue, often referred to as secondary traumatic stress, is a condition that affects caregivers who are constantly exposed to the trauma and suffering of others. This can be like a healthcare worker, or it can be an individual who is. Unlike caregiver burnout, which develops gradually, compassion fatigue can occur suddenly after a particularly traumatic event. So burnout is sort of the, okay, I've been taking care of my ill uncle for 3 years.
It's cumulative, right?
And I'm so burnt out. Fatigue can be like your mom putting the plate of dinner in front of her mother-in-law, and for the 300th time, she's like, you're a terrible worker here. You kind of break a little bit. You know, you're like, I'm over it.
But this is particularly traumatic. Like, I heard about this with the beginning of COVID, that healthcare workers in New York City with, you know, refrigerator tents outside the hospital, that was compassion fatigue. There was a dangerous thing brought on by, like, it's always hard being a healthcare worker, but this is like a back-breaking event and it causes compassion fatigue.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. And so symptoms of compassion fatigue: emotional exhaustion or numbness, difficulty maintaining empathy. This is something I feel like we don't talk about a lot. You're like, just die already, person. I'm not talking about my mother's situation, not talking about personal, but like this feeling of I cannot keep caring this much about this situation. Loss of motivation or sense of purpose, physical symptoms, headaches, gastrointestinal issues, and feelings of self-blame for not doing enough. And I think that often caretaking is, I mean, I've heard people say this, with a child, you're pouring in all these resources and you're like watching the flower bloom. You're watching it grow. You're like, oh, I fed and watered it and watch it turn into this giant tree. But caretaking for an elderly person is like, I'm pouring all these resources in and it's getting worse every day. And that is psychologically very, very hard to deal with. That feeling of like, this isn't going anywhere good. No matter how much effort I put in, this person is fundamentally dying or on the downslope.
So it's like the most reasonable feeling in the world or situation to be in, that you have this burnout or this compassion fatigue. Like, of course you end up there. But then what are you going to do about it? How are you going to get out of that?
Yeah. And how are you going to not feel like I'm such a terrible person? I just yelled at my aunt with dementia because she asked me for the 75th time when dinner is. I don't feel great about the way I handled that situation, but it's also a very real feeling. So we'll talk a little bit about managing that and also how to sort of set yourself up for success in these caregiving situations.
Sounds good.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. And now, time at home versus time at grandma's house.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
At home.
You, sir, are in time out. You can sit there until you can behave correctly.
At grandma's house.
Come here, you precious little prince. Why don't we have some cookies until you don't feel like biting anymore?
At home.
Come on, upstairs. A strict bedtime makes for a happy home.
At grandma's house.
Of course we can watch another episode. It's only, midnight.
At home.
One of our core values is a lack of dependence on material things.
At grandma's house.
Yoo-hoo! I've got presents. I just saw a few dozen things at the cute little toy store down the street, and I knew my munchkins had to have them.
At home.
My children know they can tell me anything.
At grandma's house.
Shh! Don't tell Mommy. We stopped for ice cream on the way home from the candy store. What she doesn't know won't hurt her.
This has been Time at Home versus Time at Grandma's House.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
So yes, we've all heard the FASTL, like make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure, you don't get too burnt out. It's like, okay, but
thanks for giving me another job.
You really end up with immovable pieces in these situations. Like my 5-year-old is going to wake up in the morning and need breakfast.
And want mommy.
And my mother's caretaker didn't show up. So I need to spend the night here because otherwise she could get up in the night and fall. And that's real. And also, you're talking about aging parents. One of the problems that we haven't really mentioned is that their normal caretaker, who might be your other parent, is also old now. So you may have a parent who's always looked after mom who has Parkinson's, let's say, but now dad is 86. Like, he cannot physically take care of her the way that he's been used to his whole life. This can also happen with aging parents when you have a special needs sibling, right? The parents have been taking care of this person who's now in their 40s. The parents are in their 80s. They're no longer able to care for a full-grown adult. So these things change, and you find yourself in situations that you didn't really see coming. So I think the hardest advice and the best advice is having lots of family conversations about what this is going to look like. And these conversations are hard because we don't want to acknowledge what's actually going on. And a lot of people feel super uncomfortable having these conversations.
Yeah, I think it's like you and I both being on the other side of this will come, this is coming for you to have these conversations. It's a very, very different perspective from somebody who's like, but if I just don't think about it, then my parents will stay young and capable forever, just like me.
And I feel like I'm strong at this, and I played this role because I'm dead inside. Is that what I'm going for, Amy? I'm not.
I hope you don't have compassion fatigue.
I might have compassion fatigue for life. I think I was born with compassion fatigue.
Permanent compassion fatigue.
I've found myself quite able to sit down with my mom when she was ill and say, what does your best day look like? What do you want? What is your ideal? And let's make a list of cans and can'ts, right? So one of her important things was, I don't want strangers in the house. I don't want somebody here all day who I don't know. And I had to say pretty quickly, that unfortunately is not a possibility. I cannot be here 24 hours a day. She didn't want me. She just wanted no one. I get it. I don't like, if I have a handyman in the house, it ruins my whole day. Like, I just like to be in my own little space by myself.
Yes.
But we had to have pretty frank conversations about who's doing what. And one of the things that they talk a lot about in hospice is think of your role. You probably want to spend the last month of your parents' life being their daughter and not being their nurse, ideally. And you want to be able to sit and visit with them and reminisce and not be like, I'm over in the corner counting the pills, or I'm giving sponge baths, or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, friends. Someone's going to do all that work. And so part of it may just be carving up your day. And this can also count for caregiving your kid, especially if you have a kid with extra needs. Some of it can be, what must I do and what can someone else do? And being really honest with yourself about those things. So start now having conversations with people about what they want their end-of-life care to look like. It is a really hard conversation. Nobody wants to have it. But how important is it for you? A lot of people will say, the most important thing is I want to just stay in my own home. I never want to go anywhere else. That's fine if there's somebody on the other side to provide that care. But it's also fine to say, I have 3 kids under 10, and I don't know that it's realistic for you to stay at home when we look at the budget for what that is. So can we make a compromise where you stay at home as long as possible, but when the medical needs get too much, let's go tour 3 places and find some place you would be happy.
The other thing that's really important to get ahead of time is medical directives, like do not resuscitate, and talk to your loved ones. I mean yourself. I mean your partner. I mean your parents. I mean everybody who's, over 30 should be thinking about this.
Should be writing something down on this topic.
Write it down and say, I'll do it too. You can use resources like Rocket Lawyer or things like that to do pretty good healthcare directives, having been in this situation. And the answers might surprise you, and the answers might change. Sometimes when the stuff hits the fan, all of a sudden they do want some life-prolonging directives that they said they didn't want. That's fine, but you have a clear-cut thing, so you're not trying to figure that out in the moment. Everybody who takes care of your loved one will be very happy that you have that stuff in place, and so will you.
And it reminds me of my kind of ultimate parenting advice that I got from my sister-in-law's mom, who's a pediatrician, in the beginning, like, how do you sleep and when do you feed them and blah, 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 blah. And she said, I like to use the rule 50% baby, 50% mom's needs. So whatever that looks like, if you need sleep, you can't be up feeding your baby, maybe get a bottle involved. Like whatever, you have to consider your own needs in this situation. And if you can have the conversation beforehand about Yes, we'd all love you to stay at home with only loved ones surrounding you. But brother lives in Guam and sister lives in Canada, and I'm the only one nearby, and I have 4 kids. Let's talk about what that would really look like. And let's not only live in the world, because I think that people have a tendency to answer these questions and say, well, I just want to die peacefully at home surrounded by loved ones. If that was the way death worked for everyone, I'd be like, yes, I'm all in for that. But it's not. And we have to have the hard conversations about what it really looks like.
When you have siblings too, not everybody has to have the same strength, but everybody has a strength. So your loved ones, siblings, nieces and nephews, your own siblings, your own nieces and nephews, whatever. Everybody has something that they can contribute. So the brother who lives in Guam can be handling all the paperwork for selling the house or whatever. Right. There are things you can do remotely. I'm thinking of an example of when my dad was sick. I had a sibling who couldn't be around very much, and we had to cancel a really expensive trip that my parents had planned. And of course, they make that. We could do it, but you have to, ring 10 bells and fill out Form 4B, but only fax it to this number. And so that sibling handled that considerable paperwork burden completely remotely. Right. So I think, when people say you have to be taking care of yourself, like, you know what, I'm trying, but it's hard. You know what you can take on for me? Be ready. Like, know in your head when somebody's like, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Like, yes, there is. If you could bring over dinner on Tuesday nights, that's the night that, Rebecca has soccer and I really want to get there. Be ready and hand stuff out.
And treat it like a job. It might be that every Sunday we have a family Zoom where we review what the week looks like, who's handling what. And then everyone who is not the closest person should be saying, I can take that. I can do that. I can call the nurse. I can make these calls. I can do this paperwork. 2 things I want to talk about. Number 1, finding groups that are very specific to your situation. So this is I am so anti-internet right now, but this is the good side of the internet, which is if you are dealing with a person with Lewy body dementia, something that nobody had heard the term, 20 years ago, you will find support groups that are talking about what that diagnosis looks like, how that diagnosis tends to progress. You're going to find community of people saying, we moved my mother or spouse or whoever into care 4 months in. Like, you will start to get a lot of information from people. And the good news about 2025, there are some obviously extremely rare conditions, but most conditions, you can find people who are talking about it somewhere online and find that group that can answer your questions useful.
Yes. And those strangers on the internet, having been on both sides of that relationship, are extremely generous and kind. And it's really, really helpful to talk to people who get it.
Yeah, we see it in our Facebook group sometimes. Like, I have this rare thing and someone's like, PM me, I've dealt with it. Whatever it is, put it out there that you're looking for support, because people will have more knowledge than you do. Second thing I want people to look into is respite care. Whether or not you have a special needs child, medically fragile child, an adult in your life, Google respite care. Use the social work office at any hospital or care center that a loved one is in and say, what help do you offer? Because they offer a tremendous amount of resources, but you pretty much have to ask for them. And you're not going to use all of them. My mom was not interested in having a hospice clown come and entertain her towards the end.
No art supplies?
No, she was like, miss me with the hospice clown. But there are tremendous amounts of resources that you may not know about, and don't be afraid to avail yourself of them and ask for them, because most places will provide some form of respite care and then prioritize what your needs are. Like, if it's respite care for 3 hours and you're like, this is the time I should really get the shopping done, go home and sleep for 3 hours, I beg you. Like, really, in these seasons where life goes belly up, you have to really prepare to take care of yourself.
The next tip, if you're struggling with feelings of depression or overwhelm, don't be ashamed. Get help. Get a therapist, psychologist, social worker at the hospital. Again, if you're at the hospital or the nursing home or the hospice, they have resources. They have people who are ready to help. If you don't know where to look, ask in these groups you're talking about that you really can find on Facebook or at the church down the street. And there are people who are willing to help, and you can talk to somebody who specializes in the particular stress and trauma of caregiving and who can be very, very helpful very quickly.
You can find people who mediate sibling relationships during a hospice stay. I mean, there are people to help with this stuff. And families are already complicated. And in my experience, when sudden illness comes, those complications, they don't turn the volume down on them, is what I'm going to say. Like, I'm really not talking about my own personal situation, but I know for many people, if you have a sibling who you always find too bossy and another sibling who you always find doesn't do enough, when caretaking time comes, those people are not going to get less that way. They're going to get more that way. And so you may need help navigating the relationships. You know, you may need, if you have an interest in maintaining a relationship with siblings through this time, someone once gave me the phenomenal advice. Anything that happens between siblings 6 months before or 6 months after a parent dies is wiped from the record.
That's very good advice.
And I was like, yeah, that's smart advice because it gets prickly and everybody, you know, I remember my sisters and I, when my mom died or was dying, it's like, but my mom just died. It's like, no, also my mom. Like you feel so overwhelmed and it's hard to remember that the other people are also doing that thing.
The doctors have a word for this. They call it daughter from California syndrome, which is when,
I can already picture it.
you know, we're moving down a path. Everybody's agreed. We're going to do this. We're going to operate. We're not going to operate. Whatever the decision is has been made. Everybody's at peace with it. And then running down the hallway, like, stop everything. I'm here to help. And it's really just like chaos and everything's turned upside down. The hospitals have seen it before, so they will have help on how to navigate such things.
I have a sister from California. I have to say she's not that way. So good for you, Kate.
That's good.
So we don't really have solutions. I hate to tell you. We have tactics and ways to deal with the fallout, but I'm going to leave you with the number one solution. Start having these conversations today. Don't start having them the day you're calling hospice. It's so fraught by then. It's so emergency by then. If you have parents over 70, start having these conversations right now. And also have this conversation with your spouse. What do I want this to look like? Because it gets tricky and heated later on, and just sending out so much love and support for the people doing caretaking. We know how hard it is.
Yeah,
It is as hard as you think. It is harder than you should have to be dealing with.
we agree. We agree. We've been there. We understand. We see you. Happy National Caregiving Month.
Or something. If you'd like to share this episode with someone you know who is dealing with caregiving and needs a little support from the What Fresh Hell podcast, just share this episode, post about it on your Facebook page, let people know you're listening and enjoying the podcast so we can reach even more ears. We appreciate it. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.
So long.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.